I am Dr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, Professor and Head Department of Nephrology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Today in this webinar, I will be sharing you what are the guidelines or how the patient of kidney disease are affected because of pandemic and what they should do. Now, if you see the timeline of COVID-19 infection, on December end, this infection was found out, and 13th January, WHO named it as a coronavirus 2019, novel coronavirus infection. And on 30th January, WHO declared its international public health emergency. Now, if you see the transmission of this virus from animal, it goes to human through the other animals as an intermediate host, and from human, it in the community is spread to other community people, and if the patient is sick and admitted in the hospital, it infects to other patients as well as to other healthcare workers. As of yesterday, if you see, there are 45 million people affected globally, and 1.1 million deaths has happened globally. As far as India is concerned, India in the world is number 2 in terms of a magnitude of infection. And if you see the lower yellow bars, that is showing daily infection, and in the world it is still increasing. So that is the magnitude of problem of COVID-19. Now this is showing various numbers in terms of India. Is 81 million is as of 30th October total persons infected, and 48,000 currently are new infection happening every day. And we have already seen the number of disease which are seen in the light color is 1,21,000, and approximately 550 persons are dying every day in the country. Now, if you see the pathogenesis of COVID-19 disease, there are 4 major pathogenesis. First is that virus entered in the cell through angiotensin converting enzyme receptor 2. And once it enters in the cell, there are 4 major mechanisms by which it damages the organs of the body. First is direct cytotoxic effect. Second is because of the dysregulation of the renin-angiotensin system, in which angiotensin 1 is increased significantly and causes endothelial cell injury and vasoconstriction. Third is a direct endothelial cell damage because of the virus, and because of many other mechanisms, it causes thromboinflammation, which is one of the very important pathogenesis. It causes thrombosis of the smaller and the larger vessel, and because of thrombosis, it causes ischemic damage to the various organs, and which ultimately leads to the fibrosis and dysfunction of the organ. And fourth is because of the cytokine storm, because of the dysregulated immune response caused by the downstream events after viral entry into the cell. So these are the 4 major mechanisms which causes damage in the body. Now, if you see the clinical stages, the COVID infection is divided into 3 stages. Stage 1 is the early infection, in which there is a viral response. There are mild constitutional symptoms, dry cough, some diarrhea and headache. Now this stage usually lasts for a few days, and if the infection is not controlled, the second stage develops, which is called pulmonary phase, in which there is a shortness of breath, hypoxia. If you do X-ray chest or other imaging of the chest, there are abnormal chest finding. And once this stage further worsens, the patient go into stage 3, which is called hyperinflammation phase, where there is a cytokine storm and there are elevation of the inflammatory marker like CRP, LDH, IL-6, D-dimer, ferritin, and troponin. And if this stage is severe, the chances of survival of the patient in spite of available treatment is not very well. Although COVID-19 is primarily a pulmonary infection, but with time we got knowledge that it not only involve pulmonary system to start with, it can also start with the extrapulmonary manifestation, and almost every organ of the body can be affected. To name few, it can affect neurology, it can affect liver, it can affect gastrointestinal system, because just discuss it can cause thrombosis of the vessel and thromboembolism. It can affect heart and endocrine and skin manifestation also. So practically there is every organ in the body which can be affected because of the COVID-19 disease. And today we are going to have more discussion on kidney involvement and guidelines for prevention of the kidney disease in relation to COVID. Now these are the changes in the immune system which also are used for the diagnosis of the COVID infection. So in an early asymptomatic phase, it is only the viral replication which can detect the infection. In this stage, antibody formation, IgM and IgG does not develop. Once the early stage person becomes symptomatic, that is the time when the peak viral load is there and the most likely diagnosis of the by PCR or other nucleic acid based test is done when the person becomes symptomatic. And once the symptoms start declining or there is some passage of symptom for some time, then the antibodies start developing. First IgM antibody develop, which usually start developing 7th or 8th day, and then the IgG antibodies start developing somewhere 12 to 14 days. So these are the three major tests, either PCR for detection of coronavirus for the diagnosis, or IgG antibody for as an antibody test which just give that the person has been exposed to the virus. So both of these tests, PCR for coronavirus and IgG antibody, has got its own false positive and false negative depending on when the test has been performed. So from the onset of symptom, when the test is being done and for what purpose test is being done, we have to keep in mind for selecting which test we want to perform. Now we should also remember what is the primarily mode of infection, because once we understand the primary mode of transmission, then we will be wiser to prevent the transmission in the community also. The primary mode of infection is by the droplets, but there is some evidence that the aerosol, which are very small particle, less than 5 micrometer in diameter, that they are also to some degree source of transmission of this virus. Other than these two respiratory mode of transmission of the virus, coronavirus can also infect through the fomite and through the other surfaces, although that is not a major route of transmission of coronavirus. So primarily it is still a primarily respiratory transmission through which the infection is spread from one person to another and in the community. Now, once we know that this is the primary mode of infection, there are some general precautions to prevent the spread of transmission of this infection to other people and in the community. First is the wearing of the mask. Once we are out in the community, we must wear a mask regularly and continuously, and we should also wear properly. Second is keeping the safe distance, which is approximately 1 to 2 meters between the two persons. Third is following the cough etiquette. So if we are coughing, then we should cover with our elbow, or we can use tissue paper, which should be discarded after the coughing is over. And intermittently, we should use soap and water or hand sanitizer. If we have used our hand in touching the surfaces, or if we examine the patient or we have touched the potential infected surfaces, then we should use soap and water or hand sanitizer depending upon where you are and what is the availability of the facility out of these two. Now, once we come to the kidney disease and COVID, there are 4 or 5 major issues with which we can understand kidney disease in relation to COVID. Now, first is that the COVID infection itself can cause acute kidney injury, and some patient of acute kidney injury affected because of COVID can ultimately may not recover completely and land up into chronic kidney disease, which remains for the rest of the life and will progress with time to reach to a stage when the person can require dialysis and transplantation. So that is one aspect of kidney disease in relation to COVID. Other aspect is that some patient may have pre-existing chronic kidney disease and he is affected by COVID infection. So this is the second group of the patient of kidney disease. Now, third group is that the patient has already on maintenance dialysis, either maintenance hemodialysis or maintenance peritoneal dialysis, and while he or she is on dialysis, he gets COVID infection. And the fifth group is that the patient has been transplanted in past, he has got renal transplant, and then he is getting COVID infection. So these are the 4 or 5 major kidney issues in relation to COVID infection, and we will see them one by one. Now, an important issue is that why kidney care is so much affected in COVID infection as compared to other organs. And if you want to read little more, then you can go to the Indian Journal of Nephrology May and June issues, which is the third issue, where Indian Society of Nephrology, with myself as the editor of Indian Journal of Nephrology, has published various guidelines related to kidney disease in relation to COVID-19. So the first aspect is that why kidney care is so much affected. Now, these are the few important things. Number one, large number of the kidney patients are immunocompromised patients. And because of being immunocompromised, their risk of developing COVID infection, its severity and its outcome is different as compared to many other patients we are not immunocompromised. Second issue is that majority of kidney disease patients requires prolonged and often lifelong treatment. So, if the COVID infection, then a pool of patient is large of kidney disease to which COVID infection can affect. Number 3 is that because being a chronic kidney disease patients, they are often exposed more frequently to the hospital setting. Be it they are chronic kidney disease patient, be it they are on in-center hemodialysis, or be they are a transplant patient, they often require to go to the hospital for their medical care. And because they require to go to the hospital frequently, they often frequently have to travel to the healthcare facility. And because of this travel, they are exposed to the community and are at a higher risk for acquiring infection because they have to travel through, a large number of them have to travel through the public transport like bus or metro or rail. And so they are exposed to the community and can acquire infection. Another important component of kidney disease is that the regular treatment of patient of kidney disease is very costly. And you must have known that in COVID period, because of the lockdown, because of the shutting down the workplaces, it is affecting the economy and economy of the poor patients also. And once the cost of the treatment is high, these patients are affected by the COVID infection badly. And the last issue is because of the immunocompromised state, they often do not form antibodies and they often do not clear COVID virus once they get infection. So interpretation of the PCR, RNA PCR for COVID RNA and the interpretation of the antibody once they get infection are difficult in patients who are immunocompromised. So because of these various factors, kidney care in situation of the COVID pandemic is affected significantly. And to know more about, as I said, on the third issue of this year, Indian Journal of Nephrology, we have published various guidelines related to various aspects of the kidney care in COVID pandemic. Now, next is the basic principle of kidney disease patient in COVID pandemic. Number one, these are different situations. So we should avoid making a medical emergency. So we should handle as a patient or as a treating physician, we should handle patient in such a way that they do not land up into emergency in the hospital. So what is required? That we should keep our consumable in advance and in extra stock so that during the lockdown period or during the non-availability of the drugs or the disposable, we do not land up into missing the medication or missing the consumable which is required for your own treatment. Many times medicine and the dialysis consumable, we require specific doses and specific brand of the medicine or consumable on which the patient is on. And it is possible that you may not be able to get the specific brand and specific doses of the medicine at the time of lockdown. Because of the COVID, there is no need of changing the pre-existing dose or the dialysis schedule, and patient should continue to follow the whatever treatment or dialysis schedule he is following. Another thing is that there are significant diet restriction and drug compliance which must be adhered to, so that by any chance, because of the diet non-compliance or the drug non-compliance, patient should not land up into emergency. And whatever I told in the previous slide, a general precaution for prevention of COVID infection, those should be followed. So these are the general principles with which any kidney disease patient must follow. And what I will say that this is not only for kidney disease patient, any patient should follow these principles so that he doesn't land up into emergency. Because in current pandemic situation, handling a patient care in emergency in the hospital is not easy. So what it is, most of the patients are at home, and at the time of need they come to the hospital, and then if they have got their own disease serious, or if they have become COVID positive, they often require to be admitted. And kidney disease patient, often if they are getting dialysis in the hospital, they have to be come to the hospital dialysis unit 3 times in a week. So this is a scenario which will happen to every patient, and is also true for the kidney disease patient. And once the patient is sick, we often see patients who are on dialysis or transplant, if they get COVID infection, because of their disease severity, they often land up into in the ICU care, and you can see the dialysis going on in the ICU care. So this is during COVID pandemic, and otherwise also a very common scene of a sick patient requiring hemodialysis in the hospital setting. So first of these various kidney disease patients, first is the COVID-19 related to the acute kidney injury. So approximately 20 to 35 patients of percentage of COVID patient admitted in the hospital in China, US and Europe on an average get acute kidney injury. In many situations, if the disease of COVID infection is less symptomatic, this incidence is lower, and the risk factor of COVID patient developing acute kidney injury is because COVID patient has got often comorbidity like pre-existing chronic kidney disease, diabetes mellitus, African American or male. These are the risk factors in the COVID patient for development of acute kidney injury. Now, if you see, these manifestation of acute kidney injury also are varies depending upon ethnicity and geographical region. In the lower chart, I have shown 3-4 studies which published from March to June. It is also showing number of the COVID patient. And if you see the how many percentage of these patients develop acute kidney injury, so it varies from 15% to 56%. Now, what has been compared in all these 4 studies, the outcome of those COVID patients who developed acute kidney injury and the outcome as against COVID patient who did not develop acute kidney injury. And this is also showing the number of in both the group in all the 4 studies. And what is important is in the last column that the mortality risk of those COVID patients who develop acute kidney injury is significantly higher as compared to patients who do not have acute kidney injury. So you can see in the first study is 4 times higher. In the second study, 35% of acute kidney injury patients died, while we know that the COVID-related infection mortality is 0.5 to 2% US general population. And in the third study, 50% mortality. In the fourth study, COVID with acute kidney injury is 34% mortality against a 9% mortality if patient didn't have acute kidney injury. So what we can conclude is that if the COVID patient develop acute kidney injury, disease is severe, and because of the acute kidney injury, the risk of mortality is much higher as compared to patients who do not have acute kidney injury. What is pathogenesis? As I discussed in the initial few slides, either it is direct viral invasion or it is overactivity of angiotensin system or it is immune stimulation and cytokine storm, vascular thrombosis and microangiopathy or hypoxia and hypotension. And many of these patients with COVID infection also develop secondary bacterial infection or fungal infection. And because of these secondary infections, secondary sepsis, they go into acute kidney injury. So these are the various 5-6 mechanisms of acute kidney injury in patient with COVID infection. Now this is also a study which is comparing that what is the types of acute kidney injury. As we know that because of degree of severity of acute kidney injury, they are divided into stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. And some of stage 3 also require dialysis. So dialysis requiring is another group out of stage 3. And you see what they have compared in this study is of the total patient and the number of the patient who have ICU and patient who were not in ICU. So you can see that the patient who are in ICU, they are more stage 3 patient, and the patient who are requiring dialysis, they are more in ICU. So the patient in ICU has got more severe acute kidney injury, and there are more number of the patient who require dialysis in ICU as compared to patient of COVID with acute kidney injury who are not in ICU. So the point of discussion is that patient of COVID infection who has got severe acute kidney injury and require ICU admission, many of them have got a severe acute kidney injury and a large number of them require dialysis. This is one of the prototype of acute kidney injury study. There are a large number of studies slowly coming out in the literature from the time the COVID infection started spreading from Wuhan city to different other countries and within those countries. And this is a large study published in one of the reputed journal. Approximately 5,500 patients data with a mean age of 64 years and 13 hospital. And if you see the stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 acute kidney injury, number 1 out of these 5,537% patient develop acute kidney injury, out of which 1/3 had stage 3 acute kidney injury. And what is again, it is saying that the 35% of these patients are actually expired. And at that time, 40% patients were still admitted out of this patient group. at the time of publication of this study. So what I am saying again, repeating the same what we said in previous few slides, that 1/3 of the patient of COVID who developed acute kidney injury has got severe acute kidney injury, and 1/3 of these patients actually succumb to the illness. So acute kidney injury is in fact a major risk factor causing mortality in these patients. Other than acute kidney injury, what we also know that some of these patients develop glomerular diseases. 1/3 patient developed proteinuria and microscopic hematuria. If we examine the urine, we will find evidence of glomerular disease. And a type of glomerular disease called collapsing glomerulonephritis has also been reported in patients with COVID infection and glomerular and kidney disease. Now, this is one of the manifestation which is very unique and is coming out a very important pathogenesis of COVID infection is thromboembolism. Because of the direct endothelial cell damage and because of the many other factors, vascular occlusion and microangiopathy is becoming a very important component of various organ involvement in patient with COVID infection. And you can see in this CT, there is a triangular shape infarct, non-functioning area with the tip of the triangle being in the medulla and the wider portion of the triangle is on the outer surface, which is one of the very classical radiological finding of saying that this is a infarct. So thromboembolism is also one of the ways by which it can affect the kidney, and if it is affecting the larger portion of the kidney, it can cause acute kidney injury, and if it affects the major kidney vessel, then it can cause total kidney damage and patient may start requiring dialysis for the rest of the life. Now, any acute kidney injury, whether because of the COVID or because of any other infection, has got 4 outcomes actually. One is that patient of acute kidney injury can recover completely. Second is that patient was already having existing chronic kidney disease and top of that he developed acute kidney injury. But there are 2 other things that acute kidney injury may not recover completely and can go to chronic kidney disease. And as we know, chronic kidney disease cannot become normal. And most of the chronic kidney disease are progressive in nature and ultimately patient will land up into end-stage kidney disease and then start requiring dialysis. And these are the patients whom we need to follow once the patient recovers from COVID infection, because some of these patients will go into chronic kidney disease after developing acute kidney injury, and we need to detect these patients and manage so that they do not progress or their progression to end-stage kidney disease can be retarded. Now, another extreme group is that patient of COVID infection developed acute kidney injury and then gone into complete damage, never recovered, and continue to require dialysis from the infection time itself for the rest of the life. So these are the 2 extreme outcomes which are bad, and we know now that there are chronic sequelae of COVID infection, and we need to follow the patient of COVID disease who recovers apparently completely, but they often on follow-up has been found to have residual permanent damage in various organs like pulmonary fibrosis, chronic kidney disease, cardiomyopathy, residual damage to the liver. So these patients need to be followed, and a large number of the hospital and Government of India has developed COVID clinics in which the recovered patient of COVID are being followed up in different hospitals. Now, second is chronic kidney disease. Now, those patients who are having glomerular disease or chronic kidney disease, and if they develop COVID infection. Now, in these patients, what is important that chronic kidney disease is a common comorbidity for development of COVID infection. What we know is 2 major comorbidity. Number 1 is the elderly age and number 2 is the diabetes. Now, these 2 are common comorbidity with which patients of COVID infection comes to the hospital. Other than these 2, the third commonest comorbidity is chronic kidney disease, which is associated with COVID infection. Second is that it is a common risk factor for severe COVID disease as well as mortality. So if you have got patients of COVID infection admitted in the hospital, and if you have got two groups, one has got pre-existing chronic kidney disease and other does not have chronic kidney disease. Patient who has got chronic kidney disease will have a more severe COVID disease, and the mortality in these patients is much higher than the patient who do not have chronic kidney disease. Second, as we discussed just now, many of patients will go from AKI to acute kidney injury to chronic kidney disease, although we still need to follow a large number of a patient of recovered acute kidney injury in COVID to actually understand what is the magnitude of this group of chronic kidney disease patient who recovered completely, apparently completely from COVID infection. So this probably many months or maybe years will tell us that what is the magnitude of development of chronic kidney disease following acute kidney injury in COVID. Another important thing is there are various drug trials for COVID infection, but chronic kidney disease being a risk factor and a higher mortality, the patient who has got chronic kidney disease are usually excluded from these drug trials. So what we also do not know at the moment that the person who developed COVID disease and also has got pre-existing chronic kidney disease, how to treat these patients, we do not know actually. Although we also do not know in actual real sense what is the best treatment. Till now we have gone 8 months now from COVID infection, but we still do not know which is the best drug, what is the best combination of the drug, how to treat these patients. Still drug trials are going on and we still have to get the best answer. Another important issue is because the COVID infection virus get entry to the cell through the ACE2 receptor. There is a controversy whether ACE inhibitor or angiotensin receptor blocker should be continued or should be started or not. There are enough studies to show that if you continue ACE inhibitor or receptor blocker in these patients, as compared to group where you stop these drugs, there is no change, there is no difference. Rather, the patient who are continued on ACE inhibitor or receptor blocker did little better as compared to those patients where these drugs were stopped. So we should use ACE inhibitor and receptor blocker on its own merit. If patient is already on, then we should continue. Or if you need to start these drugs because of their own indication, because of cardiovascular disease, we should not hesitate to start the drug in the presence of COVID infection. Now this is what I was showing, that the patient who has got pre-existing chronic kidney disease has got poorer outcome. So this is basically comparing no kidney disease, presence of chronic kidney disease, and the dialysis 14 days after ICU admission and 8 days after ICU admission. So whether we are assessing early outcome or the late outcome, in both the patient who has got chronic kidney disease and who are on dialysis, more number of the patient died both in short-term outcome as well as in 28 days outcome. So you are seeing gray, dark bluish bar much more longer as compared to other groups. So this I was trying to stress, that a pre-existing chronic kidney disease is a risk factor for severe COVID disease and a higher mortality. Now then coming to the issue of patients who are on dialysis and then develop COVID infection. It is a very important issue, and you must have seen in the media that there was difficulty in managing these COVID infection in the initial days because large number of the COVID patients start requiring dialysis, or patients who are already on dialysis start getting COVID infection. Now this is again, there are multiple studies, but I am just showing 3 studies spread over on April, June and July, and number of the patients on hemodialysis who developed COVID infection, and the last column is showing the mortality. So somewhere 30% patients who were on hemodialysis and developed COVID infection has mortality. Although currently we know that with a better understanding, now we are able to save a large number of these patients and mortality has decreased in subsequent studies. Now this is one of the prototype of this patient who are, this study showing both transplant patient and the dialysis patient, but just concentrate on the patient on the dialysis on the lower chart. 21.2% mortality in dialysis patient as compared to who had developed COVID infection as compared to patient on dialysis who do not have COVID infection, 1.2% mortality. So approximately 20 times higher mortality in dialysis patient who develop COVID infection. So these are sick patients. We need to handle these patients very judicially. Now this is a very, although it is congested slide, but it tells overall what needs to be done in a patient who is getting in-center dialysis, means he comes in the dialysis in the hospital. So while he is at home, he should use hand hygiene, self-isolate, and inform the dialysis unit if he develop any symptom. He should wear the mask and he should avoid using the public transport so that he should not get the risk of developing COVID infection, because we have just discussed the dialysis patient, if he develop COVID infection, has got more severe disease and higher chance of mortality. Now, most of these patients must inform if they have got symptoms to the hospital dialysis unit, so that the hospital dialysis unit is prepared to handle these patients, because these patients, if they are infective, they needs to be dialyzed in a separate isolation room or needs to be dialyzed differently. We have got various ways. If some of the hospitals do not have an isolation room, then we need to dialyze in a corner of the large room, because most of the hospital has got a large room of the dialysis patient where 10, 20 or 30 machines are being used for dialyzing patient. So we can dialyze in a corner room, or we can dialyze in one of the separate shift. Most of the hospital has got 3 or 4 dialysis shift of 4 hours. So we can collectively dialyze infected patient in the last night shift or the late evening shift, so that they do not expose other patients. So most of these patients, when they come to the dialysis unit, they come to the waiting area, and hospital should provide hand sanitizer and the mask in the waiting area, so that before these patients go inside the dialysis unit, they do hand sanitization, use masks, so that inside the dialysis unit they continuously use the mask. And as I discussed, they need to be dialyzed in either in isolation or in the last shift, or in the last in one of the corner of the dialysis unit. And in a waiting area, their temperature should be recorded. For the staff of the dialysis unit, they should be well trained to handle the COVID patient. So they should be able to use the PPE kit completely. Donning and doffing should be explained to them, and they should be well prepared to use. They should be given a fixed shift. Dialysis staff should not be changed in between the 2 dialysis, so that by any chance if dialysis staff get infected, we should have enough reserve of the manpower to run our dialysis unit, because if all staff will get infected, we may not be able to run the dialysis unit. And dialysis staff also should self-monitor. If they develop any infection which can be suggestive of the COVID infection, they should inform the in charge of the dialysis unit, because then they should not come to the dialysis unit and should not give dialysis to the patient, so that they themselves should not become source of infection to other patients or other healthcare workers. And that's what it is showing. If patient is asymptomatic, we can dialyze and there is no evidence of infection. We can dialyze in a dialysis unit while all the dialysis staff and the doctor are using full PPE. So we do not need to test every patient. And on that issue, I will come in the subsequent slide. If these patients are symptomatic on arrival, or if they are known positive with COVID infection, then as discussed just now, we have to dialyze in a different setup, either isolation or in a last shift or in a corner of the room, so that they do not become source of infection to other patient and other healthcare workers. So one of the important issue which you must have read in the media also, that many hospitals are saying that we must test every patient before giving dialysis. Now it's not an easy thing, and we as a Indian Society of Nephrology do not recommend that every patient before dialysis must be tested. Number one, it is a costly affair. We know that although cost of test, the government has brought down significantly, but still it is not that cheap that 3 times in a week these tests should be done. Number two, there is a time required. If it is conventional RT-PCR, then it takes 6 to 8 hours. if it is other nucleic acid based test, CBNet or TrueNet, still it takes 2 to 3 hours, and many patient comes in the emergency and we cannot wait for the test result to come before we need to dialyze. Number 3, that if the one test comes negative, there is no surety that the patient doesn't have a COVID infection for various reasons, because these are immunocompromised patients. RT-PCR is not 100% sensitive. With best of the hand, it at the most sensitive 70 to 75% sensitivity, so we still miss 20% of patients. And the next thing is that say suppose in today's dialysis we have tested and he is negative before dialysis, there is no guarantee that in the next dialysis or in the future he will not be developing infection in between 2 dialysis. And this is also against the Government of India policy, so we do not advise to test patient before dialysis. But yes, we advise do not get test, watch for the patient. If he looks symptomatic or if it is positive, then dialyze as per the standard protocol in isolation or in last shift. If he is not infective, but still the dialysis staff and the doctors must wear the PPE so that they themselves are not infected. And because dialysis beds are nearby between the 2 beds, the infected patient does not become source of spreading the infection to other patient also. Now, other than hemodialysis, there is another mode of dialysis which is chronic ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, which is also a lifetime dialysis on which patient get lifelong. So there are two issues. One is that the patient who is already on CAPD and he is doing. Now this patient, because this is to be done at home, so this type of a patient on CAPD are much better off because they will need not to come to the hospital setting, which is a high risk area for acquiring infection. So we advise that they should continue CAPD as before because they are doing at home. And as discussed, they should keep their supply, dialysis bag and dialysis fluid in much advance so that they do not get short of the dialysis stuff and land up into problem that they do not have a dialysis material and they are not able to dialyze at home, because at that time they will land up in getting hospital for getting hemodialysis because they are not able to do dialysis at home. Another important thing with CAPD is that in a day, most of the patients require 4 dialysis sessions. So they have got empty dialysis bag and tubing. So these tubing and bag must be disinfected with 1% hypochlorite solution first before these are disposed in a sealed bag. So disposal of the dialysis material is very important because patient is doing dialysis at home. So he must know how to dispose of these used dialysis bag and the drainage tubes. And another important thing is that whatever dialysis fluid is being used, it doesn't remain in body. It comes out of the body, and dialysis fluid also needs to be discarded properly. So the used dialysis fluid should be flushed in the drain, and the hypochlorite solution should be used in the flush so that it becomes non-infective. Now these are the precautions which needs to be done for in a patient who is already on CAPD. Now you must have heard that a large number of the patients started requiring dialysis, and even in Western world also there was shortage of the dialysis machine. So some of the patient needs to be started afresh on CAPD. Now that becomes a issue because this is a surgical intervention and it is not easy to get a surgical theater or the staff or anesthesia for putting the chronic catheter for the CAPD. So in this situation, people have done CAPD initiated at the time of COVID, that the person developed COVID and then he is being initiated on CAPD catheter. But what people have done, they have also used acute PD catheter in these settings because after all, a patient requires dialysis, he has to be given dialysis. And because of the shortage of the hemodialysis fluid and the dialysis filter, a large number of a Western setup also are doing acute peritoneal dialysis with using acute catheter and the Stellate, which they were not doing for last many decades. This is not in developing country. Many of developing countries still using acute PD catheter, but in a large setup in a Western country they are not using. But in a COVID area, COVID pandemic time, these acute PD catheters are being used. And acute PD catheter in developing country where there is no dialysis machine can be life-saving for COVID patient who developed acute kidney injury. And again, these are consumable, so these are done in a hospital setting. So we should use all aseptic precaution and discard these catheter and the dialysis fluid as we discussed in a COPD in COVID patient. Now, last area is renal transplant and COVID. So the issues involved is that there are two issues. One is the patient is already having renal transplant and develop COVID infection, and other is in a pandemic, when the COVID pandemic is going on, should we do a new transplant or not? Because that is also an issue, and you must have heard in the media also, the renal transplant being an elective surgery has been stopped since late March after the lockdown, because every elective surgery in all the hospital came to standstill. There is a problem in evaluation of the renal transplant recipient, because once they are on immunosuppression after COVID infection, they are at a risk for developing infection. If by any chance donor is having infection, there is a risk of transmission of COVID infection from donor to the recipient. So if we are planning a new kidney transplant, we have to be very careful that we should not land up in transmitting infection from the donor to the recipient, because donor is not immunocompromised, but the recipient is immunocompromised. So if we transmit infection, donor may not become serious, but because recipient is on immunosuppression, he can become serious after the transplant. So recipient selection and the donor selection are very important. If by any chance our hospital is ready to do the transplant during COVID pandemic, this issue of a COVID-free area in the hospital, anesthetic, surgeon availability and the staff while we are treating the COVID infection in the hospital should be balanced. Because of the COVID infection, a large number of the healthcare professionals are actually involved in COVID patient care, and there are not enough staff to run the elective surgery. And renal transplant being elective surgery, even in best of the hospital, renal transplant has been stopped. However, now as the COVID infection is to some degree coming down, although still more, some hospitals have slowly started doing elective renal transplant. What is important to share in this area at this time, that the disease donor transplant, which is an emergency because patient donor come accidental cases and we cannot waste organs. So most of the time, although elective renal transplant were stopped, disease donor transplant is still continued. Even in our hospital in All India Institute, during COVID period, we have done disease donor transplant because we cannot waste the organ, and it is an emergency like any other emergency surgery was continued in COVID pandemic. So was the disease donor transplant also. So every hospital has to actually balance whether they have got a adequate manpower while managing the COVID pandemic in their hospital, and do they have a setting that a elective surgery like renal transplant patient can be prevented for getting infection in the hospital setting. Unless those things are balanced, it may not be wise to venture these drastic things in an elective surgery, and it is better to let the COVID pandemic settle down a little bit more before we start the renal transplant. Management of recipient means patient already has got transplant done and then he developed COVID infection. So there is not too much data because there is not too many patients, but slowly and slowly patients' information and publication has come in those transplant patients who developed COVID infection. Now because these patients are on immunosuppression, their immunosuppression needs to cut down. Otherwise their infection may get flare up. So those physicians who are handling the transplant patient, mycophenolate or anti-metabolite drug like azathioprine needs to be stopped, and other drugs needs to be handled carefully while balancing the degree of severity of COVID infection against the rejection if we stop the drug drastically, immunosuppressive medicine. So we have to balance. At the moment, there is no consensus how to handle the immunosuppression. But there are two important things. Number one, we should not stop all immunosuppression suddenly. There is a consensus to stop anti-metabolite like mycophenolate mofetil or azathioprine, which one is being used. And we have to see that if we are treating these patients with other drug like remdesivir or antiviral or hydroxychloroquine or azithromycin, we have to see that these drugs which interact with the immunosuppressive medicine should be handled properly, so that under or over immunosuppression should not happen in transplant patients who are being treated with COVID infection. Now, this is some of the studies which has from March to June, and not, as I said, not too many patients literature is available, but nowadays in October, we have got large number of the series of transplant patients, and there is no consensus that transplant patient, whether there is a high mortality because of COVID infection or there is no high mortality. Some center has managed these patients without any high mortality. In some center, there is a higher mortality in transplant patients. So it probably varies at what stage of post-transplant period patient is, how is the severity of infection, what are the treatment being given for managing COVID patient and their drug interaction with the immunosuppressive medicine. What is the age of the patient, associated comorbidity like diabetes, hypertension, or ethnicity. So all these multiple factors actually decide what will be the outcome of renal transplant patient who develop COVID infection. Probably it will be difficult to generalize that this is the outcome in renal transplant patient who developed COVID infection. So performing a new transplant, we have already discussed, we have to balance COVID infection and renal transplant in the same hospital, assess the manpower, number of the bed, because the large number of the bed have been sacrificed for COVID patient. We have to see COVID-free area in the hospital so that patient does not develop COVID infection. And we have to assess the recipient and the donors so that the transmission of the COVID infection does not happen through the transplant. Last few minutes on treatment. As you must have read in the media also, that in spite of so many drug trials across the world, there is still no consensus of the treatment as per the recommendation, which has shown a clear-cut benefit of various treatment in these COVID patients. Now, if you see the stages, early stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, and the lower corner, there are three major things which definitely show the benefit. One is remdesivir, which is given in a pulmonary phase, which is moderate infection. And second is the dexamethasone, which is given in a moderate to severe infective phase, stage 2 and stage 3. And third is the oxygen treatment, which is given in stage 2 and stage 3. So these remdesivir in moderate to severe infection, dexamethasone in severe infection, and oxygen in moderate to severe infection. These three treatments has definitely shown clear-cut benefit in patient with COVID infection, and these are being used probably across the world in most of the hospitals. Other drugs, which I will show in subsequent slide, is, if you see, these are the guidelines, International Infectious Disease Society of America. On the left side, what they say, whether it is suggested or recommended or not recommended. In the middle column is the patient population, and the last column is the treatment. So as I discussed, remdesivir and glucocorticoid are suggested in a moderate to severe disease in admitted patient in the hospital. Hydroxychloroquine, lopinavir and ritonavir, tocilizumab and convalescent plasma, these are still under the trial drug. So these are only recommended under the trial setting. These are not recommended without trial. So if you are using these, you must use it under trial. And famotidine or hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, which was initially came with a hype that these affect significantly outcome of the patient is no more after so much studies. These have not shown any benefit at all. So these are not suggested even in the trial regime under the trial recommendation also. So we'll end up oxygen therapy, remdesivir and glucocorticoid. These are the three treatments which have definitely shown improvement in patients with moderate to severe infection who are admitted in the hospital. So this is my last slide. What is take-home message of COVID in relation to kidney disease? Kidney disease is a common comorbidity for COVID-19 infection. Both acute kidney injury and chronic kidney disease or patient on hemodialysis and transplant has got risk of developing severe disease, and there is a higher mortality as compared to those patients who do not have kidney disease. If there is a kidney disease, it alters the management of the patient because most of these patients have been excluded in different drug trials. COVID-19 is a common cause of acute kidney injury, severe infection. 1/3 of the patient developed some degree of acute kidney injury. Dialysis unit, because it is multiple patients are being dialyzed and patients are exposed to each other, is the transmission of COVID infection from one person to other and to healthcare worker. Providing dialysis and transplant facilities in COVID pandemic area is a difficult proposition. It needs to be organized in a very well planned way so that these patients do not have a higher mortality and do not become source of spreading the infection to other patients. So overall, kidney disease patient in era of COVID pandemic need a very organized teamwork for providing a good outcome in these patients. With that, I will end my talk and the discussion. I hope you will get some knowledge of handling patient of kidney disease in COVID pandemic era. Thank you very much for the patience listening.